Welcome, dear dreamer. Tonight we embark on a unique bedtime experience. One that is both deeply relaxing and profoundly enlightening. We'll begin with a guided relaxation to help you release the weight of the day and prepare for a peaceful night's rest. Afterward, I'll share a beautiful story, The Enlightenment of Rumi. Based on true events, this tale recounts Rumi's spiritual journey, his moments of awakening, transformation, and the deep wisdom that shaped him into one of the most inspiring spiritual figures in history. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and prepare for the journey ahead. Ensure you have everything you need to feel completely supported and at ease. Perhaps a pillow beneath your head or knees. A blanket wrapped around you for warmth, or an eye covering to block out any remaining light. Let yourself take any small adjustments, moving intention until your body feels fully at rest, completely supported by the surface beneath you. Now, take 2 gentle sips of air in through your nose. Exhale slowly through an open mouth, allowing your jaw to soften and your entire body to release. Once more, inhale twice through the nose. And let go with a deep, effortless sigh. One last time, 2 sips in. And exhale, feeling your body grow heavier, surrendering into the support beneath you. Your nervous system begins to unwind, untangle, like a tightly wound thread, unraveling into spaciousness. Allow yourself to fully arrive here in this sacred moment of rest. As your body settles, feel your breath return to its natural rhythm, like gentle waves rolling in and out. Relax the muscles of your face, your jaw, your tongue. Softening the tiny muscles behind your eyes, the micro muscles around your forehead and scalp. Let go of any lingering tension. Imagine the two hemispheres of your brain, like tired muscles, slowly unclenching, opening into ease, spaciousness, stillness. And could you allow this relaxation to flow downward? Feel it cascading through the entire body, melting through your shoulders, down your arms, into your hands. Softening your abdomen, your pelvis, your legs, all the way to the soles of your feet, the very tips of your toes. Wrapped in warmth, cocooned in stillness, you are momentarily untethered from the outside world, free to simply be here, resting in this sanctuary within, allowing the mind to dissolve into spacious awareness. As if thoughts be gently embraced by the heart, letting go of thinking, planning, doing, opening instead to the experience of listening, sensing, being. Fully present, completely at peace, feeling the gentle ebb and flow of your breath as it carries you deeper into stillness. Held, supported, nourished by this moment of profound rest. Nothing to do, nowhere to be, simply here. As you continue to relax, surrendering into this deep state of being, know that you are safe, that you are enough, that you are whole. Rest here for as long as you need, embracing this sanctuary of stillness within. Now, it's time to set your sankalpa, your intention. If you do not have a specific intention at this moment, you may silently affirm, I surrender completely. allowing my body and mind to rejuvenate in perfect harmony. Whisper this intention 3 times in your mind, letting each repetition deepen its presence within you. Let this resolve remain present throughout your practice. Feel its resonance extending into each moment, like a gentle wave washing over your awareness. Now, a journey of awareness through the body begins. Direct your attention to the tip of your tongue. The surface of the tongue. The roof of the mouth. Direct your attention to the entire mouth. The teeth and gums, the inside of the right cheek, the inside of the left cheek, the space between the upper and lower lips, the air moving in and out of the nostrils, the tip of the nose, the bridge of the nose, feeling both eyebrows, the temples, direct your attention to both eyes together, growing heavier, gently relaxing. Back into their sockets. The sensation of relaxation deepens as the eyelids soften and the muscles surrounding the eyes release completely. Direct your attention to the center of your forehead. The entire forehead, allowing awareness to seep into the scalp and hair. The entire scalp and hair. A sensation of warmth or tingling may emerge, spreading down from the crown of the head like a gentle wave of relaxation. Focus attention on the entire right hemisphere of the brain. The entire left hemisphere of the brain. both hemispheres together, simultaneously, uniting in a sense of spacious awareness. The brainstem, the root of the tongue, the entire jaw, the center of the throat, the base of the throat, expanding with each effortless breath. Bring attention to the heart center, the right side of the chest, the right shoulder, the upper arm, the elbow, the forearm, the wrist, the palm of the hand, the back of the hand, the thumb, the first finger, the second finger, the third finger, the small finger, returning back to the palm, the wrist, the forearm, elbow, upper arm, shoulder, shoulder blade, rib cage, waist, hip, the whole thigh, knee, lower leg, ankle, heel, sole of the foot, top of the foot, the big toe, the second toe, the third toe, the fourth toe, the little toe, the entire foot, the whole leg, the whole right side of the body together. The whole right side of the body and the left hemisphere of the brain, sensing them together, urging breath, awareness, and relaxation. The whole right side and left hemisphere, bringing attention back to the center of the chest, feeling steady rhythm of your heartbeat as it echoes through your being. The left side of the chest, the left shoulder, upper arm, elbow, forearm, wrist, palm of the hand, back of the hand, first finger, second finger, third finger, small finger, back to the palm, wrist, forearm, elbow, upper arm, shoulder blade, rib cage, waist, hip, the whole thigh, knee, lower leg, ankle, heel, sole, top of the foot, the big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, little toe, the whole foot, the whole left leg, the entire left side of the body, the whole left side of the body and right hemisphere of the brain, the whole left side of the body and right hemisphere of the brain, both simultaneously embracing the entire left side of the body and right hemisphere of the brain. A sensation of unity, balance, and effortless awareness emerges. Now, welcoming both hemispheres of the brain, the right and left sides of the body together, sensing the wholeness of your being merging into stillness and peace. The entire body, the whole body, effortlessly at rest, embraced in a state of deep relaxation. Feeling the breath, the body breathing itself, steady, natural, soothing, guiding you deeper into serenity. In your nostrils, you may sense warmth as you exhale, a coolness as you inhale, becoming aware of the breath, feeling the gentle rhythm of your breathing, noticing the ocean of air surrounding you. Waves rolling in, waves rolling out, sinking deeper into relaxation. Allowing your body to soften, to settle, to surrender into the stillness. As you observe this effortless, natural breath, feel yourself becoming more and more present. Begin to count down from 18 as you inhale, softly whispering the number 18. As you exhale, 18. On the next inhale, 17. Exhale, 17. Continue at your own gentle rhythm. With each breath, feeling the passage of air moving through you like a gentle tide, cleansing, soothing, calming. Whenever you are ready, you can release the count, returning to the natural flow of your breath. The next time you inhale, imagine your body becoming light, weightless, floating effortlessly, drifting upward, light and expansive, floating on the breath like a feather lifted by the wind. The next time you exhale, sense your body becoming heavy, sinking into the earth, grounded. Feeling the weight of your body supported, embraced by the earth beneath you. The fullness of your body resting even more deeply. With each exhale, surrendering further into comfort and ease. On the inhale, once again embracing weightlessness. With each breath, floating, spacious, free, as though held by an invisible force of calm and clarity. As you hover in this tranquil space, bring your awareness to the center of your forehead. Allow a rotation of images to gently arise. The feeling of bare feet against the earth. The scent of flowers drifting in the air, their fragrance infusing each inhale with serenity. Golden sunlight filtering through the trees, casting dappled light upon your skin. The soothing song of birds in the distance, a melody of nature's harmony. A vast horizon lined with mountains, their peaks whispering stories of timelessness. The glow of the setting sun painting the sky in hues of amber and violet. The shimmer of ocean waves beneath moonlight, the rhythm mirroring your breath. The warmth of flickering flames in a fire, their glow offering quiet comfort. A silent owl gliding through the night sky, wise and knowing. The Milky Way stretching infinitely across space, an expanse of wonder and mystery. A deep sense of connection with all that is. A boundless awareness, infinite and whole. An embrace of all existence. resting in this profound interconnection with all things, feeling the pulse of life within and around you. Allow yourself to welcome your sankalpa, your intention, feeling it resonate within or softly stating it in your mind. Imagining yourself floating amidst the constellations, bathed in celestial light. The outline of your body traced by twinkling stars, forming the constellation of you. Begin to sense the physical form of your body, the edges, the volume, the presence. Feeling the volume of your being resting in your sacred cocoon, your sanctuary of stillness. Noticing the breath moving through you effortlessly, the gentle rhythm of life itself. Taking a deep breath in and releasing fully. Then 2 small sips of air through the nose. And exhale completely. Repeating once more. Breathing in deeply and releasing. One last time. Softening into stillness, expanding into the moment. Allowing yourself to absorb the benefits of this practice. The deep nourishment of presence. The sun dipped low over the ancient city of Bach, its golden fingers casting elongated shadows across the bustling market streets. The scent of spiced saffron and fresh baked bread hung heavy in the warm air, mingling with the chatter of merchants and the distant recitation of holy verses from the madrasas. Somewhere within the maze of narrow alleyways and fragrant courtyards, a young scholar named Jalaluddin Muhammad sat in quiet contemplation. His father, Bahauddin Walad, a revered theologian and mystic, had instilled in him a deep devotion to God and the pursuit of knowledge. Since childhood, Rumi had been immersed in the teachings of the Quran, philosophy, and Sufi wisdom, absorbing them as effortlessly as the desert drinks the rain. He was a prodigy, a man whose intellect and eloquence in discourse made him a beacon for students and seekers alike. Yet, despite his wealth of knowledge, an emptiness stirred within him, a longing that even his vast studies could not satisfy. Each day he walked the colonnaded halls of the madrasa, his robes whispering against the stone floors, as he engaged in scholarly debates and spiritual discourses. He was respected, admired even, by the learned men who sought his guidance. But he could not escape the nagging feeling that he was merely tracing the outlines of a truth he had yet to touch. His life was structured, disciplined, and marked by the rigorous intellectual traditions passed down to him. But there was something missing, an unnameable void that even the most profound teachings could not seem to fill. One evening, as he sat by the quiet ripples of a moonlit fountain in his family's courtyard, he heard his father's voice echo from a time long past. There is a knowledge that cannot be taught, a wisdom that must be felt. The words struck him differently now, as if they carried an invitation, a subtle urging to seek beyond the boundaries of books and doctrine. But where was he to look? Was not all truth contained within the sacred texts? He struggled with the notion that there might be something beyond what he has already mastered. It was during these years of inner restlessness that fate began to weave its unseen threads. The Rumi who presided over theological discussions and delivered sermons to the eager ears of students would soon be undone, not by logic or debate, but by something far more enigmatic. A force, unseen but deeply felt, was approaching. A whisper in the universe that would shake the foundations of his very being. And so, unaware of the tempest of transformation that awaited him, he continued his days in measured thought and disciplined teaching, walking a path that would soon lead him to the one who would set his soul aflame. For now, he was simply Rumi, a scholar, a teacher, a man of faith. But deep within, beneath the layers of intellect and structured devotion, something else had begun to stir, a hunger that could not be fed by books or discourse, a longing for something beyond the grasp of reason. He did not know it yet, but his life was about to change forever. Out beyond the walls of his comfortable world, Shams of Tabriz was already on his way. The air in Konya crackled with the crisp bite of autumn, leaves tumbling in golden spirals along the stone pathways. The city hummed with the rhythm of its people. Traders haggling in the bazaars, scholars debating in the courtyards, and mystics lost in silent contemplation. Rumi, now a revered teacher and scholar, moved through it all with a quiet grace, his presence commanding respect without the need for words. His students hung on every syllable, drinking in his wisdom like parched earth welcoming the rain. And yet, deep within him, a longing pulsed, a hunger unnamed, a thirst unquenched. It was on an afternoon, thick with the scent of cardamom and burning cedar, that Rumi first encountered the man who would change everything. He was on his way to the madrasa, his mind occupied with verses he had been preparing for his students, when the figure stepped into his path. Shams of Tabriz was unlike any man Rumi had ever met. He was older, his face lined with the etchings of a life spent in wandering. His garments were plain, a sharp contrast to the silken robes of the scholars, and his eyes, dark, deep, burning, held with a kind of madness that only those who have touched something beyond this world could possess. "Who is greater?" Shams asked, his voice rough as a desert wind. "The scholar who recites knowledge, or the one who becomes it?" Rumi halted. The question struck him like a blade through silk. He had answered thousands of questions in his life, offered guidance to those who sought it, but this was something else. It was not an inquiry. It was a challenge, a summons. "I do not understand your meaning," Rumi admitted after a long pause. Shams smiled, a slow, knowing curve of his lips. "Then we must talk." And so they did. The first conversation stretched into hours, then days, then weeks. Shams spoke of love as a force beyond reason, of truth that could not be contained in books, of God not as a concept, but as a fire that burned within him. His words struck Rumi in places he did not know existed. He did not teach as others did. He provoked, unraveled, stripped away the layers of certainty Rumi had wrapped around himself for years. Something inside Rumi cracked open. The careful, composed scholar who had once walked with the weight of knowledge on his shoulders found himself laughing with abandon, dancing in the empty halls of his own soul, weeping for reasons he could not explain. He began to see the world differently, not as a series of rules and disciplines, but as a vast, endless ocean of love. The city whispered about them. Some watched with curiosity, others with disdain. "Has Rumi lost his mind?" they murmured. "What spell has this wandering dervish cast upon him?" His students felt abandoned, his family concerned, but Rumi no longer cared for the expectations that had once shaped him. He was walking a path that had no name, led by the burning gaze of a man who saw him more clearly than he had ever seen himself. One night, beneath a sky scattered with stars, Rumi turned to Shams and asked, "Why have you come to me?" Shams regarded him in silence for a moment before answering, "Because you are ready." And in that instant, Rumi knew this was no ordinary meeting. This was destiny, written long before either of them had drawn breath. The scholar was dissolving, and in his place, something new was being born. The city of Konya had not seen Rumi like this before. The man who once walked its streets with the measured steps of a scholar now moved with a wild unpredictability of a lover lost in longing. The transformation was undeniable, and to those who had known him as the dignified scholar, master of law and theology, it was unsettling. He no longer spent his days in the marble halls of the madrasa, no longer presided over structured debates on religious philosophy. Instead, he was often found in the presence of Shams, speaking in hushed tones that carried the weight of unseen worlds. The two men were inseparable, locked in conversation that seemed to stretch beyond the boundaries of time itself. For Rumi, the world had unraveled and reformed before his own eyes. He had spent his life believing that devotion to God lay in discipline, in knowledge, in rigid adherence to the scriptures. But Shams had shattered that notion like a mirror struck by lightning. He spoke of love as the only true path, of surrender as the only true wisdom. And Rumi listened. The more he felt himself dissolving. One night, after a long silence between them, Shams leaned forward and whispered, "Burn your books." Rumi's breath caught. He had spent his life accumulating knowledge, poring over scriptures and sacred texts. His identity had been built upon the foundation of those books. "You can't be serious," he said, though even as he spoke, he knew Shams was. Shams smiled, an enigmatic smile, the one that always seemed to know the answer before the question had even formed. "Knowledge is a candle, my friend, but love is the sun. Which will you choose?" Rumi felt the question settle into his bones like a riddle only the heart could answer. That night he sat alone, staring at the shelves of books that had once been his greatest treasures. He ran his hands over their leather-bound spines, feeling their weight, their history. But as he did, something inside him began to shift. He realized that he had been searching for God in words, when God had been whispering in the spaces between them all along. The next morning, he walked past the madrasa without a second glance. He no longer needed the security of the walls that had once defined his world. Instead, he followed Shams to an open courtyard where the dawn stretched its golden fingers across the earth, and for the first time in his life, Rumi danced. It was not a dance of the body alone, but of the soul breaking free. He spun, arms outstretched, the hem of his robe flaring like the wings of an unshackled bird. And as he whirled, the world around him blurred. Scholars and students, skeptics and believers, the entire city of Konya, they all faded until there was nothing left but the movement, the music, and the love that pulsed like a heartbeat in the universe itself. Shams stood watching, silent and still, a small smile curving his lips. He had seen what he needed to see. The scholar had become the seeker had become the lover, and the lover had become the poem itself. From that day forward, Rumi was never the same. His words no longer carried the weight of logic, but the weight of longing. His teachings were no longer about discipline, but devotion. And when he spoke, it was not just with his voice, but with every fiber of his being. The transformation was complete. But with every awakening comes a test, and soon Rumi would learn that the deeper the love, the more profound the pain of separation. The night was silent, yet inside Rumi a storm raged. The space where Shams had stood just yesterday was now empty, but the echo of his presence still reverberated through the stone walls of Konya. The city had not changed, but Rumi had, and now, without Shams, he felt hollow, as if the universe had drawn back a curtain, giving him a glimpse of the divine, and then slammed the door shut. No one knew where Shams had gone. Some whispered that he had grown weary of Konya's judgmental eyes, that the scholars who resented his influence had drawn him away. Others claimed he had simply disappeared, like a dream dissolving at dawn. But Rumi knew that none of these explanations would soothe the wound left in his heart. He had been set ablaze by love, only to be left with the smoldering ashes of longing. For days he wandered the streets, his mind a labyrinth of unanswered questions. He no longer cared for the structured debates of the madrasa, nor the hushed reverence of his students. Instead, he listened to the whispers of the wind through the cypress trees, to the murmur of water in the fountains, to the quiet ache within his soul. And then, when words finally found him, he wrote. It began as a trickle, fragments of thoughts scrawled onto parchment in the dead of night. But soon, the trickle became a flood. Words poured out of him, verses birthed not from intellect, but from longing, from pain, from the unbearable beauty of love's absence. Each poem was a prayer, a plea to the divine, a conversation with the missing half of his soul. He wrote as if his very breath depended on it, each syllable a bridge between the unseen and the seen, between form and formless. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. These were not the words of a scholar. These were the words of a man undone, a man remade. Rumi had spent his life studying God through scripture, but now he was learning God through absence. Love had not come to complete him. It had come to shatter him, to scatter him like the autumn leaves he had once walked upon without a second thought. He turned to the Sema, the whirling dance that had first emerged from his need to move, to transcend the weight of his grief. The people of Konya watched in wonder as the scholar turned mystic, spun in endless circles. His arms lifted, his body an instrument of surrender. He had become the dance, just as he had become the poetry, and the words did not stop. Don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form. You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? What you seek is seeking you. The poetry spread, whispered in the streets, written on scraps of parchment, passed from one hand to the next. It was no longer just about Rumi and Shams. It was about everyone who had ever loved and lost, everyone who had ever stood at the edge of longing and peered into the vast unknown. His pain had become the world's poetry, his loss the world's lesson. But still, he could not shake the feeling that Shams was not truly gone. Love, he had learned, does not die, it merely changes form. And somewhere, in a field beyond right and wrong, beyond knowledge and unknowing, beyond the weight of the world, Shams was waiting. Rumi picked up his pen and wrote on. The city of Konya had changed, or perhaps it was Rumi who had changed so completely that the world around him now appeared different. The walls seemed softer, the sky wider. The wind itself whispered secrets he had not been attuned to before. Love had hollowed him out, and in that space, something vast and eternal had taken root. Shams was gone, yet he was everywhere. Rumi saw him in the flickering candlelight, in the hush of dawn, in the spaces between heartbeats. The pain of separation had not diminished, but had transformed. Where once he had grieved, he now marveled. Love had not abandoned him. It had merely deepened, taking new shape, woven itself into the very fabric of his being. His poetry flowed ceaselessly now, not from thought, but from surrender. He no longer wrote to understand, but to dissolve. He spoke not as a scholar, not even as a man, but as something greater, something boundless. His words were no longer his own. They belonged to the wind, to the earth, to the unseen currents of existence that carried them far beyond his reach. One evening, as dusk spread its violet hush over Konya, a young disciple found Rumi seated beneath a cypress tree, his gaze fixed upon the sky's slow descent into night. The disciple hesitated, then knelt before him. "Master," he whispered, "we have lost Shams." Rumi turned, his eyes alight with something indescribable. "Lost?" he repeated. A small smile touched his lips, the kind that carried both sorrow and immeasurable peace. Love is never lost. It changes form, but it does not leave. The disciple lowered his gaze, unsure how to respond. He had seen the way Rumi had suffered. He had heard the verses of longing poured from his soul like water over stone. How could he speak of love without loss? Sensing his doubt, Rumi reached out, his fingers light as wind against the man's shoulder. Tell me, when a candle burns, where does the flame go? The disciple frowned, puzzled. It becomes heat, smoke, light. Rumi nodded. Exactly. It does not vanish. It transforms. So too does love. Shams is not gone, my friend. He is within me, within you, within the spaces between each breath. He inhaled deeply, closing his eyes. Can you not feel him? The disciple remained silent, watching his teacher with a reverence he could not name. And in that moment, he understood. Rumi was not mourning Shams. He was becoming him, becoming the love they had shared, the wisdom they had exchanged, the fire that had once burned between them. Shams was not lost. He had become part of everything. From that day on, Rumi's teachings took on a new depth. He no longer spoke merely of devotion, but of union, of a love so vast it could not be held in the hands, only felt in the marrow of one's soul. He taught not through doctrine, but through poetry, through dance, through the ecstatic surrender of the self into the greater whole. His followers multiplied. His words spread like wildfire, crossing borders, bridging hearts. People who had never seen his face wept upon hearing his verses, feeling, even centuries later, the echo of a love that had burned so brightly it could never be extinguished. One evening, as Rumi stood alone in the courtyard, his robes stirring gently in the autumn breeze, he whispered a verse into the night. You were born with wings, why prefer to crawl through life? And with that, he turned, stepping not away from love, but deeper into it, knowing now that love had no end, only endless beginnings.